3 months ago, you were on fire. You had the vision, the energy, the plan. You woke up early. You worked late. You told everyone about your goals. You felt unstoppable. And then, somewhere along the way, the fire went out. It wasn't dramatic. There was no single moment where you quit. It was quieter than that. You just stopped caring as much. The alarm went off and you hit snooze. The project sat untouched. The momentum disappeared. And now you're sitting here wondering what happened, wondering why you can't sustain it, wondering if maybe you just don't have what it takes. Let me tell you something that's going to sound harsh, but it's the truth you need to hear. Motivation is a liar. It shows up uninvited, makes grand promises, floods you with energy, and then disappears the moment things get difficult. It's the friend who hypes you up at the party but won't help you move. And if you're building your life on motivation, you're building on sand. But here's the good news. There's something far more powerful than motivation. Something that works on the days you don't feel like it. Something that carries you when your feelings fail you. It's called discipline. And today, we're going to decode it. Not the motivational poster version, the real version. The one that actually works when life gets boring, hard, and repetitive. Let's start by understanding why motivation fails you. Motivation is an emotion, and like all emotions, it's temporary. It rises and falls based on factors you can't control: your mood, your energy, your environment, what you ate for lunch. And here's the problem. Our culture has taught you that you need to feel motivated to act, that successful people are the ones who wake up every day excited, passionate, ready to conquer. But that's not how it works. The most successful people, the ones who actually build things that last, they don't rely on feeling motivated. They've learned to act regardless of how they feel. Think about it. Do you think the Olympic athlete feels motivated every single morning at 5 a.m. when the alarm goes off? Do you think the writer feels inspired every time they sit down to write? Do you think the entrepreneur feels passionate during the 10th rejection meeting? No. Most of the time, they feel tired, bored, frustrated, doubtful, but they do it anyway because they've built something more reliable than motivation. They've built a system. And here's the shift that changes everything. Motivation is about how you feel. Discipline is about what you do. Motivation says I'll work out when I feel like it. Discipline says it's 6 a.m., time to work out. Motivation says I'll write when inspiration strikes. Discipline says I write from 9 to 11 every day, no exceptions. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the structure that keeps the fire burning long after the spark is gone. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to manufacture discipline through willpower, through sheer force of character. They wake up every day and try to white-knuckle their way through their goals. And it works for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 if they're really committed. And then they burn out. Because willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. And if you're relying on it to carry you, you will eventually run out. So if discipline isn't willpower, what is it? It's architecture. It's the intelligent design of your environment, your habits, and your identity so that the right actions become automatic. So that doing the hard thing becomes easier than not doing it. Let me tell you about a study that will change how you think about discipline. Scientists wanted to understand why some people stick to their exercise routines and others don't. They studied thousands of people, and they found something fascinating. The people who exercised consistently didn't have more willpower, they didn't have stronger motivation, they had better gym placement. The closer the gym was to their daily route to their home or their work, the more likely they were to go consistently. It wasn't about character, it was about friction. Every goal you have, every habit you're trying to build, has friction, the distance between where you are and the action you need to take. And your brain is constantly calculating, is this worth the effort? If the friction is high, your brain says no. Even if you're motivated, even if you care. But if you design your environment to reduce friction, to make the right choice, the easy choice, you remove the decision entirely. Let me give you some examples. You want to read more? Motivation says, I need to get excited about reading. Discipline says, I'm putting the book on my pillow so I see it before bed, and I'm putting my phone in another room. You want to eat healthier. Motivation says, I need to crave vegetables. Discipline says, I'm meal prepping on Sunday so healthy food is already ready, and I'm not buying junk food in the first place. You want to write every day. Motivation says, I need to feel inspired. Discipline says, I'm opening a blank document every morning at 8 a.m. before I check email, before I scroll. The document is already open. All I have to do is type. Do you see the pattern? You're not relying on your future self to make the right decision. You're making the decision now in advance when you're clear-headed, and then you're building an environment that supports that decision. This is what psychologists call implementation intentions. It's the science of pre-deciding. Instead of saying I'll work on my project when I have time, you say every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. I work on my project for 1 hour. No negotiation. Instead of saying I'll call my mom when I think about it, you say every Sunday at 10 a.m. I call my mom. The specificity removes the decision fatigue. You're not deciding whether to do it, you're just executing the plan. And here's the beautiful part. The more you execute, the less you need to think about it. The behavior becomes automatic, it becomes part of who you are. Which brings us to the most powerful piece of the discipline code. Most people set goals based on outcomes. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to write a book. I want to build a business. And there's nothing wrong with having a target. But if that's all you have, you're setting yourself up to fail. Because outcome-based goals are fragile. They depend on results you can't fully control. You can do everything right and still not lose the weight, still not get the book deal, still not make the sale. And when the outcome doesn't match your effort, you quit. But there's a different way to approach this. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. This is called identity-based discipline. Here's how it works. Instead of saying I want to run a marathon, you say I'm a runner. Instead of saying I want to write a book, you say I'm a writer. Instead of saying I want to build a business, you say I'm an entrepreneur. This might sound like semantics, but the research shows it's transformative. Because when your goal is an outcome, every action is a negotiation. Do I feel like running today? Is it worth it? What if it doesn't matter in the long run? But when your goal is an identity, the action is a confirmation. Of course I run. That's what runners do. This is who I am. Let me give you a concrete example. Two people are trying to quit smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. Person A says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. That's outcome-based. They're resisting. They're fighting their own desire. Person B says, no thanks, I don't smoke. That's identity-based. They're not resisting. They're stating a fact about who they are. The language is slightly different. But the psychological weight is enormous. Person A still sees themselves as a smoker who is temporarily abstaining. Person B sees themselves as a non-smoker, and every time they decline a cigarette, they reinforce that identity. So here's the shift I want you to make. Stop asking, what do I want to accomplish? Start asking, who do I want to become? And then make decisions that align with that identity, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because every action is a vote for the type of person you're becoming. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to execute flawlessly every single day. You just need to cast more votes for the identity you want than against it. Miss a workout, that's one vote against. But if you show up the next day, that's a vote for. The identity isn't built by perfection. It's built by the trend. And over time, the trend becomes the truth. Now, let me address the part nobody talks about. The part that kills most people's discipline. The plateau. You start strong. You build a system. You execute. You see results. You feel good. And then nothing. The progress stops. The results plateau. The work becomes repetitive. And suddenly, the whole thing feels pointless. This is where most people quit. They think, if I'm not making progress, why bother? But here's what you need to understand. The plateau is not a sign that your system is broken. It's a sign that your system is working. Let me explain. Progress is never linear. It's not a smooth upward line. It's a staircase. You climb, you plateau. You climb, you plateau. The plateau is where the real work happens. It's where your body is adapting, where your brain is consolidating, where the invisible growth is occurring beneath the surface. Think about a bamboo tree. For the first 5 years, you water it, you care for it, and nothing happens. No visible growth, just a seed in the dirt. But underground, the root system is spreading, deepening, strengthening. And then in year 6, the bamboo shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. It didn't grow 90 feet in 6 weeks. It grew 90 feet in 6 years. You just couldn't see it. The plateau is your root system. And if you quit during the plateau, you'll never see the growth. So here's the protocol. When you hit the plateau, when the work feels boring and pointless, I want you to do 3 things. First, zoom out. Look at the trend over months, not days. Are you further along than you were 3 months ago? 6 months ago? If yes, you're progressing. The day-to-day noise doesn't matter. Second, reframe the work. The plateau is not wasted time, it's mastery. It's where you're building the muscle memory, the neural pathways, the identity. The plateau is where amateurs become professionals. Third, trust the process. You don't need to see the results to keep going. You just need to trust that the inputs lead to outputs, even when the outputs are delayed. The people who win aren't the ones who never plateau. They're the ones who keep showing up during the plateau. Let me leave you with this. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will get you finished. Motivation is the spark. Discipline is the fuel. And if you're waiting to feel motivated before you act, you'll spend your whole life waiting. So stop chasing the feeling. Start building the system. Design your environment to make the right choice easy. Pre-decide your actions so you don't have to negotiate with yourself every day. Shift your identity from what you want to achieve to who you want to become. And when the plateau comes, and it will, don't quit. That's where the roots grow. That's where the character forms. That's where you become the person who doesn't need to feel ready to show up. Because here's the truth. Discipline isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being kind to your future self. It's about making decisions today that your future self will thank you for. So here's your assignment. Pick one thing, just one, something you've been trying to do when you feel like it. And instead, schedule it. Put it in your calendar. Make it specific. Make it non-negotiable. Not because you're motivated, but because it's who you're becoming. The version of you that you want to be. They don't wait for motivation. They show up. They do the work. They build the life. And that version of you, they're not some distant, unattainable future. They're one decision away, one action away, one day of discipline away. So make the decision, take the action, build the system. And when motivation fails you, and it will, you'll have something far more powerful to carry you through. You'll have discipline. And discipline doesn't quit. Now go build.